Greetings and welcome to Mount Olympus. I am Hercules Invictus, and today I'm with Setna of Khemet, known to the wider world as Michael K. Waterman, and we will be discussing matters of import in the cerulean sphere and its study. Greetings, Setna. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Happy third day of the Feast of Bast.
Thank you.
As I said, it was Oliver's birthday also, not May 7th, which is the beginning day, the opening day of the Feast of Bast, which runs till December, runs until June 21st, the autumn, the summer solstice, in which Bast tends then the reins of things to her father, Ra.
And you are very well versed in all things mythical. And today I'm going to elicit your help in expanding my knowledge of the days of the week and the planets and the stars and so forth. I'm codifying a system I developed way back when I first started exploring online and by fanzine, I guess you can call them, back in the days when the ISIS Fellowship and Circle Network had their
Well,
little
I'm still a member of the Fellowship of Isis. They're become very big in my life again.
awesome.
My publisher, Edward Sott, who is the publisher of Today's Witch magazine, which I write for monthly now, knows them very well, and they speak very highly of me. And I was kind of shocked because I'd lost touch with them for a long time. And here we are back where I began in Egypt.
I was curious, is there a system in Egypt where the days of the week are dedicated to particular gods and
Oh, absolutely. But they had a different way of doing it. It was not only the days of the week, but the hours, so that, you had a god or a goddess that would do things at a certain hour. It's kind of like the Chinese that way. You have the hour of the rabbit or the hour of the turtle. The Egyptian gods did that too.
the traditional classical Greek, Roman, and other Olympian deities that were used during the Roman Empire for the gods, they have also by hour. But I found that in terms of working with that, that was way too detailed for me to be doing on a daily daily basis and living the rest of my life. So
It gets very complicated. In the morning, for instance, you have Ra rising. By afternoon, you have Horus. By midday, you have Osiris. As it goes further into the night, you have Nuit, the sky, the night sky, and also Khonsu, who is the moon. So it goes that way and on and on. 12 hours of daylight, 12 hours of night. And when the Egyptians have their papyri for passing on the Book of the Dead, those hours of the day and night are also become judges as you travel into the Dua, the realm of the dead, and you're going forward into the Hall of Ma'at. Ma'at, of course, being the goddess of justice and truth. And, that's what happens too. In the morning, you're going to meet Bast, so that you're going to start fresh with a woman, a goddess who is of motherhood and protection and, kind of a warm, fuzzy, loving being. And then after you have your coffee, like I usually do, you're going to move into the realm of Horus, the sunlight and brightness. And, what I love about Horus is he brings you into positive energy for the rest of the day.
so is the deity also assigned to a particular day of the week? Like, for instance, Sunday is usually dedicated to the sun gods of different.
Exactly. So you're going to have Ra,
So
the
every
moon, and Monday will be Khonsu, the moon,
okay, so
you
Monday
know.
gods through the moon, Tuesday
Okay.
God of
Tuesday would be it's a day that is kind of complex and a lot going on. So you have Thoth, Tehute. It's a day to start working on your, it sounds funny, but start working on your bills, start working on little expenses and things like that. He's going to partner with his wife, who is Shastet, or Shasta, like the soda was years ago. Shasta. She is the goddess of writing and also numbers. So they partner together. He fills out the form and she puts in the money.
Thinking about it. So usually Tuesday is associated with the god of war, the god of battles, and Wednesday would be the variation Hermes or Mercury or Tahuti. Is that
Wednesday belongs to Hathor,
Apple? Okay.
which is, that there's things because Wednesday can also be Venus Day, and also Odin's Day in other traditions.
Yeah, Odin I knew about Vulcan, but I wasn't aware that the Venus was on Wednesday. Venus is usually Friday in most systems.
Well, they keep Friday um, magically for Hathor. Well, Hathor and also Neith. I should have said Hathor was Wednesday. Venus is Hathor. Aphrodite is Hathor.
Right. So that's Friday or Wednesday in Egypt.
Wednesday. On a day, it's the middle of the week. They want you to feel beautiful. They want you to feel refreshed. They want you to feel not sluggish. A lot of people say, oh, it's the hump week, the hump day. Oh, God. But if you think about it, if you have the goddess of beauty cheering you on, you're going to do better for the rest of the week. At least that's how we look at it.
Okay, that's very interesting way of looking at it. You give me stuff to meditate on already. How about please?
Thursday is an interesting day because you're going to have, you've got to watch what's going on. It's a day to maybe a little mistrust. So we have Subek, the crocodile.
Plans, and one looks at one's visions for the near future, and one plans on that day rather than on Tuesday. So
Well,
it's dedicated to Jupiter.
Subek is an interesting god. He says, trust yourself and no one else.
Mhm.
So Thursday, by that time of the week, you're tired, or if you're at a heavy job, you're looking forward to the weekend. The weekend belongs to the enchantress, Isis.
Okay.
Friday, she's like, get ready. She's a goddess who likes to party. So she wants you to have a mystical, wonderful experience on Friday. And most people, except for people like me that were in retail, were off Saturday and Sunday. You know, Saturn is wisdom. Saturn is a day of empirical things and such. So that belongs, I would say, in our ways, to Ptah, who is the creator, the interesting God, the master builder, the master arranger of things. Because Saturday is a day where a lot of people have free, but in our way, it's get organized, get yourself back together, and also relax. He wants to work, and he works also that way. Excuse me. Um, with Kansu, not Kan, I'm sorry, Kansu, Kepra, who is the scarab, going forward into the next week, going forward, getting things worked out, building. They're both builders. He builds spiritual energy, and of course, Ptah works on physical energy.
So these gods, like you said before, they're also part of your journey between life and a new
Oh,
life.
very much so. Yes, very much so.
How would the journey go there? You shared how it goes during the course of the day, where each god owns a particular piece of the day, and that you get certain experiences, and you're under different supervision, as it were, as the day progresses. How would that work after life?
Okay, well, you have Anubis. In other traditions, Anubis would be the angel of death.
Okay.
That I guess in your tradition it was Thanatos, is it not?
Xanthos is a Titan. He's one of the beings that comes and gets you and brings you to the underworld.
That's exactly what Anubis does. He brings you into the Hall of Mati. He's met by his half brother, Horus. He takes you through all the terrible things that are happening to get you to that hallway. He's a guardian of the soul. And then you have the protector of that spirit. Anubis hands you to Horus. Horus is going to bring you into the Hall of Mati. Now, in the Hall of Mati, you have the goddess Ma'at, who is, of course, the weigher of the heart and the sayer of what will happen. Anubis goes into the great hall with a big scale, and on the scale, Ma'at takes from her head, her crown, the feather of truth. She puts it on one tray. Anubis will take your heart. good heavens, and put your heart on the other tray. And this is where the old saying, make your heart be light, comes from. Because if your heart is heavy and you're full of sin and bad things and negative energy, the heart will weigh down and it will then, the feather of truth goes up high. And then what they'll do is not good. They take the heart, and there is a creature. Her name is Amit. She's a very interesting combination creature. Her head is a crocodile. Her forelegs are a lion. The middle of her body is a hyena. The back of her body is a hippopotamus. So
Wow.
she, in my mind, she's a mess. And she's very evil, and she will literally eat your heart out. And your energy then will disappear. You will not be made into a being again, and that energy will be used some other way. Maybe you'll be a battery in this time in life, or you're going to be the energy necessary to build a chair or to get somebody's emotions. You're just going to use that energy. You're not going to be that energy is not going to be a human, any kind of a physical being anymore. Just an energy. It's just light to be used by the gods as they see fit.
So,
But then, if the soul, I'll finish. If the soul then gets past that, and the heart is light, okay, the Mott judges it. The word is passed. Tehute then writes down. Thoth writes down in his little clipboard, Michael has passed, Hercules has passed, and you are taken by Horus into the hall of Osiris. The great guards open up. Osiris is on his throne. Behind him is Isis and his sister Nephthys, Nebtet. Osiris then reads what Thoth and Maat have created. And Osiris says, Hercules Invictus has passed all these things. His heart is light. He is a good man. I grant you the ability, the right to pass into the next energy field, which will be your paradise, as it were. In Greek, it's the Elysian fields. In our energy, it's the same kind of thing. Quite literally, if you're a farmer, you're going to be farming. If you're a king, you'll be having a court waiting for you. If you're an administrator, you'll have your people, your scribes, everything is there, almost as if you were alive. However, you also have an option. Do you want to come back to the earth and fulfill a question that Thoth is going to ask you? That is reincarnation. They want you to come back and answer another question. Just as you, Hercules, answered eight labors, nine labors,
it's 12.
12 labors. Oh, I was giving you a discount. I'm sorry.
Um, Now, in this culture's reckoning, what keeps the soul stuck is either an addiction or um, an intense emotion or unfinished business. And that's what usually gets somebody stuck here as a ghost. In Greek, it was the rites were not said, or the coins were not provided for the crossing of the sticks. So it was basically a ritual thing. And if somebody had a haunting, they wondered if somebody in their family had died, that they should have prepared a funeral for, but weren't aware that the person died because they didn't have the internet or telephones back in the day. So they would have these funeral ceremonies. What kept an Egyptian soul stuck here?
Well, in order for that Egyptian soul to pass through all those things I told you about that Anubis is taking to, and Horus, and then to go into the hall of Mati, you must carry with you a scroll, what you would call the Book of the Dead. We call it coming into the night, the light, night as well as day. And you'll carry this with you. It's prayers, incantations, not invocations, things that are going to be brought to them so that those words will let you pass through those different parts until you reach the Hall of Maat, at which point your heart will be judged. So, but you have to pass through all these things, kind of like the Argonauts did. You've got to pass all these different tests. And once you have the doors of Mott open, and then you have the final task. You have to present to her that you're a good person. If you're not a good person, it's going to be very obvious, and the creature Amit will eat the heart. But the later dynasties had a way of cheating that. If you link back to King Tut, he had a scarab that was about as big as my fist on his chest. It's called a heart scarab. And supposedly in the incantations, these spells on that scarab, it says, "My heart, my mother, my heart, my mart, we will not allow my heart to be damaged." The scarab will speak for the heart. It's kind of I said to somebody earlier, it's kind of like a cloaking device from the Klingons. It comes up and hides all the things that are in the heart so that the heart looks good. The heart is pure, it looks light, and then you can sail through. It's kind of a cheat. What I was saying to my former high priestess was that's kind of a silly thing. It's kind of denigrating to the deities. They can't see that that's a lie. They can't see that that's phony. That you're a terrible politician or a murderer or an unfaithful wife or a husband, or you're a cheat in your business. Of course you'll see. Of course they will see that. But these later priests were a bit corrupt, and they said, take this scarab and put this on your heart, and it will hide all your sins. And it didn't work, I don't believe.
So it was like the Christian tell them indulgence that you got like a get out of jail free card.
You've done terrible things, and you go to church, and the priest will absolve you in the confessional. I murdered my wife, and you have to do 75 Hail Marys, et cetera, et cetera. It was the same thing because the scarab had inscriptions on it, which would absolve you of all your iniquities.
In the Greek, it was basically you went to the nearest entrance to the underworld. The entrances were well known, and usually there was a necromandia or a temple of the dead there, where people
Hmm.
visited those who had passed on, and necromancy was practiced. And necromancy just means oracles of the dead. It doesn't mean all the nasty stuff uh, that modern fantasy is. And
Well, people that don't understand what a necromancer is, I have two in my groups. Actually, they're both in New Jersey. They speak to the dead. They will speak for the dead and of the dead, but they speak directly to those that have crossed over, so that they can communicate with the people that are still here. It's not about casting evil spells and conjuring demons and all that other gobbledygook.
so the gods Hermes and the Titan, I guess, or God, depending on how you look at things, Thanatos, they were among two of the personages that met the important dead and escorted them personally to the entrance.
Oh, that's cool.
Rites were said, then the person would cross over, or if they had the coins in their eyes or underneath their tongue, or whatever custom was prevalent at the time, they can pay the ferryman, and that's where that expression comes from, and then move over to the other side. And they had to wait on a long line and get past Cerberus. And Cerberus, his job was to prevent souls from leaving or trying to escape their judgment. So then there was a judgment, and depending on a lot of factors, you were assigned to a different place. Most people were assigned to the field of Baskerville, where you had like an amnesia, and you lived in blissful ignorance about all of the conflicts and heartache of having been incarnate, and you just lived in the Baskerville fields. And people from the necromandia, the necromancers, they could perform rites that would give energy to the dead and allow them to remember and to speak to the living. And we have an example of that in the Odyssey, where
I remember.
went down to the underworld and spoke with Tiresias and his family and so forth. And then there were places you can go. If you didn't want to go, you can get stuck in Erebus. Erebus was an in-between place. So part of
Hmm.
in the underworld and part of Erebus was in this world. And if you didn't have the right set, or you didn't have the coins, or you didn't want to proceed into the underworld, you lived on Erebus on this side of the river. And Hecate was the or Hecate is people learning this. She was the sovereign there. So she ruled the dead on this side of the river of death.
Interesting.
And in
We have, I'm sorry, go ahead.
and then in the underworld, if you were a good person, you went to the Elysium for good people. You know, these are good people. You know, like you're going to heaven. That was the idea. If you're good, so good, decent people went to that Elysium. Then you had the mystics Elysium. That if you saw the initiation, life's mysteries, the mysteries of Demeter, Persephone, Dionysus, and so forth, and you attained a certain degree of illumination, you wound up in the mystics heaven. And then we had what's I call the glam heaven. It's like National Enquirer or the Weekly World News or the gossip magazines.
Oh
And
my.
there it was constant drama and exaggerated living. And if you impressed the gods and made an appearance on the world stage and became famous, you went to that Elysium for a while. Eventually,
Oh,
would run out of reasons to be in Elysium and you would reincarnate. And usually it's you started noticing problems with the heaven you found yourself. And you developed a desire to leave that heaven and not be in that heaven anymore.
so how many heavens would you say that the Olympian traditions have?
Very many. There was another route, the route of the hero, also part of the glam heaven thing, which was goes back to the days of the week that we started off with. That the Greeks believed that the night sky, or Nifta, showed you various personages and things and creatures. So these beings that were illuminated, that illuminated the dark by their twinkling, who were in recognizable shapes, they made it to the heavens. And you could tell who was in heaven because they could look down at you. Not everybody went to the actual sky. Just very special souls who became immortalized for some reason. So the correct
Tell me the name again of that goddess.
Nichta, or Nix, they call it.
Ah, oh, Nyx. Okay. NYX.
Yeah,
That was the cosmetic I worked for years. Um, but I'm laughing because neat, Nuit, Nuit is very similar, and she's the sky. She's the night sky. So
Nix,
Nyx and Nuit are very similar.
they are. They serve similar functions. So Hercules, for instance, he's in the sky.
Hmm.
Is performing the labor that got him immortal, which was the finding the golden apples of the Hesperides and doing that labor, which is usually the 11th to 12th, depending on who you read again. But it was one of his last labors. And there he got the apples that provided immortality and other mythical systems, like in the Norse system, they were the apples of immortality, and they had magical properties that made them dangerous to the world of men. So Hercules is kneeling and he's holding what looks like either flowers or leaves or snake heads, depending on again who's drawing it. But that's the initiation into the land of heaven and the entry there for when he completed his labors. He ascended after his life was lived. So that's a different type of heaven. And then there's the more, they're usually considered Gnosticism these days, but they originated in Greek demonology, not demons, daemon, which meant an intermediary spirit in Greek. And there it fits in with Greek mythology because in the beginning there were abstractions like night and love and so forth. And then the abstractions become more and more related to the world we live in. Then you have primordials that are totems, and I guess when dinosaurs roamed the earth. And then you had the Titans, and then you had the Olympians, and now we're living in the age of man. So humanity can become divine during this time.
In my traditions, we have very much something similar because Horus, in order to reach his father Osiris, goes through, I think it's 10 labors.
Mhm.
And he has to bring to Osiris a pomegranate. It's a golden pomegranate. and he brings it to his father, and it opens up, and in the pomegranate is a heart, and it shows that it brings back Osiris's heart, which in Egypt is where his senses are. You know, of course, that they didn't know what to do with the brain. They scooped them out during mummification. They thought it was just filler. And in a lot of people's experiences these day and ages, I think that might be true in some cases, that it's just filler. But that Horus had other battles with his uncle Set, of course, and he became the pharaoh. He became a divine pharaoh. And every pharaoh from then on follows himself. In life, he's Horus. In death, he is Osiris.
And I thank you for giving me something new to research and meditate on, because right now my particular earthly journey with the mysteries of Hellenic antiquity have taken me to the Garden of the Hesperides. And you're sharing that there was a golden pomegranate involved, because pomegranates are often called apples by the ancients as well.
Oh, yes, yes.
Golden one and had life giving properties. So that's important to my quest. So I thank you for that.
In many, many tombs, they find silver and gold replicas of pomegranates. And opening up those containers, they'll actually find pomegranate seeds. Probably originally they were all the whole thing, but after a couple of thousand years, I imagine they disintegrate. But they have, you've seen them. They are literally a pomegranate with the triangular peel on the top that you just pull open and you will see all the seeds. And so that was because Horus brought that to Osiris. That's shown in many, many tombs, particularly earlier periods. When you get into the Ptolemaic period and the Persian periods, you have their traditions. The Greco-Macedonian traditions are brought there, and the Persian, Nectanebus, for instance, who's the last alleged generic pharaoh, or should say, a native pharaoh. He really wasn't. He was Persian. Had all those things, and again, it was with a pomegranate, and also grapes, olives, dates, and figs.
Very cool.
Yeah, they always. Now, the other thing is, the Greek soul doesn't return in a spirit form into where the people can be with them. In Egypt, you have a spirit door at the tomb. Many, many people for thousands of years would celebrate for pharaohs and just even ordinary shoe. There's one for a shoemaker. It's a spirit door. It's got two sides that say this person's name and where they're from. Atop is usually a winged sun disk representing the entrance into eternity and the return into eternity. So the spirit would come through that door. The relatives would have a picnic. They had meats and fruits and vegetables and wine, and beer, because the Egyptians invented beer after all. And they would have a party with that person. And then at a certain hour, usually 7 o'clock in the evening, after the dinner was finished, they would pack up everything, leave an offering to that spirit, that and a person's spirit, and return within about 2 weeks and have the same ritual all over again. Um, and this is true of, for instance, pharaohs like Tutmosis the third. The rituals went on for decades, even I believe a century after he passed away. He was a very much loved pharaoh.
And how far into history these rites taking place or these systems following?
From what we've seen from archaeology, Egyptology, the rituals that you're talking about go back at least to the fourth dynasty. So that's about 7,000 years.
Wow, that's a respectable amount of time.
Well, you have the step pyramid. It's at least 7,000 years old. That was the Saqqara, you know, Djoser's pyramid. And of course, the architect was Imhotep, who of course has been maligned in all these weird mummy movies. But he was an architect, he was brilliant, and he created the multi-levels mastaba. A mastaba is usually it's kind of a trapezoidal shape tomb. and the pharaoh is buried under this pile of stone, mud bricks. So Imhotep had the idea to make that literally a stairway to heaven. He built mastaba on top of mastaba on top of mastaba. Unfortunately, when the pharaoh died, when Zoser died, instead of having like the Chinese emperor, the little figures, and later pharaohs having Shabti figures and statuary, most of his court were buried with him. His favorite wives, advisors, priests, priestesses, musicians, his favorite horse, all sorts of, and his dogs were all brought with him. Some of them were mummified, some of them were not, but they've been finding more and more bodies all around that mastaba because they wanted the pharaoh to have everything he needed in his life in his next journey.
And these tied in this, like for instance, in Greek mythology, and speaking about Hercules, who's in the night sky, his labors correspond to the zodiac. Not exactly like a Caucasian bed. It doesn't like fit very neatly, but if you look at it as a spiral that is not even, you could fit the labors in and they fit very well in that type of model. But for instance, Leo was the man lion, the zodiac sign of Leo. And Cancer was the crab that Kakinos, who bit at his toes while he was fighting the Hydra of Lerni. And there's also a Hydra constellation in the sky. And I've always wondered why they didn't use that, the crab, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. So the the gods of the days, the gods of the hours, the gods of the year, all had these stories that played themselves out in the starry sky.
Very similarly, the star Sirius is the dog star, is Isis's beacon. When she gave birth to Bast, she became Isis Sotis. And Sotis and Ra gave birth to Bast. Bast is in the sky this time of the year. People say a rabbit and they'll see a cat. Osiris is akin to the system called Orion's Belt. And they say that there are planets around Orion's Belt now that we know about that, but apparently they did too. And they also knew apparently that there were planets around Sirius.
Yes.
And they say that Isis came down from Sirius and Osiris came from Orion's area. Now it's interesting because in other traditions, they're brother and sister. So if one lives in Sirius and the other one lives in Orion, I wondered where mom and dad were. But mom and dad were excuse me, Geb and Nuit, the sky and the earth. The father was the earth, as you know, in Egyptian. We do everything backwards. Mother was the sky, father was the earth. And somewhere between them is their father-in-law, Shu, who said, "Stop fooling around for a while, like Atlas," and he holds up the sky so that she can rest um, while Geb recharges, shall we say.
Yeah, and myths in Egyptian that seem to repeat like the Greek one. There are patterns that play themselves out. So the Hercules holding up the sky is Atlas in Greek mythology, is Shu holding up the heavens in Egyptian mythology.
Yes, yes.
The correspondence, and there are ancient Eastern correspondences too. Hercules has roots in the Gilgamesh epic. He also has roots in the milk cart, the king of the city of Tyre, and people send the articles that they found. You might have been sending articles that they find other evidences of the Hercules figure being part of mythologies we didn't even know about.
Well, like you have Atlas holding up the earth. In Egypt, you have Shu and Tefnut.
Mhm.
They are holding up the earth. They're two lions that are up at opposition from each other. So their back ends and their heads at the earth allegedly rests on that. And when they got tired, Horus came. Horus is Hercules. Horus came and said, "Great grandma and great grandpa, go take a rest for a while, and I'll hold up the earth." Sound familiar?
Nice, of course. Yes, it does sound familiar. And two lions come from a Greek myth about the baby Zeus in this cave in Crete. The Eurytus, they were these spirits, the fingers of Rhea, they were called the dactyls. And one of the dactyls was Hercules. So he was taking care of his baby father in that myth. And his job and the other dactyls was if Zeus made a lot of noise, they would start clanging their weapons and banging their shields and their swords and their spears together and making a clamor and shouting as they did their warlike dance so that Cronus didn't suspect that it was baby Zeus down there. And then Cronus, when he discovered the deception later on, turned the equivalent of Hercules and Athena into lions, into stone lions. So that looks like it's related to the story you just shared.
And when Isis was pregnant with Horus, there was a scorpion in the sky, and her name is Selket. And she produced herself into seven sisters. And the seven sisters are, of course, the other star system. You have in Greek, you have the seven sisters.
Yes,
I believe those are the nymphs. And in Egyptian, the scorpion goddess creates the seven sisters, which are her protective guardians that watched over Horus and Isis.
I have one memory of pre-dynastic Egypt. And I remember until they started exploring pre-dynastic Egypt, I thought it was fiction, because there was nothing like it in reality that we knew about. No one started exploring the mysteries of pre-dynastic Egypt and publishing widely in our lifetime. I saw that a lot of the things that I remembered were of that particular era. And I got a scorpion tattoo based on the graphics from the Scorpion King movie because that was pre-dynastic Egypt. And
Well,
some of
they
the
say that they now say that the Scorpion King was the Pharaoh Namra. He is the one who united Upper and Lower Egypt. And you'll see it, the very famous palette where they show him wearing the red crown. And then on the other side, he has the white crown, Upper and Lower Egypt united. So and on that palette somewhere, there are scorpions because he's the scorpion. And they haven't found his tomb yet, but they found many other things that belong to him. And he ruled with Selket. He ruled as the Scorpion King.
And I researched that and discovered that as well. So I studied the mythology of the Scorpion King, the Scorpion Mother, and her Scorpion children, or Scorpion sisters, and that led to becoming tattooed on my flesh because it was so important a piece of history that I experienced that was unknown before and that was proven to be true. And I wanted to commemorate it on my flesh and etch it into my being.
Well, my rising sign, I'm a Virgo, ruled by Isis. Um, my rising sign is Scorpio. So that's Selket. And I'm also protected by Ra, Leo, the lion, is my midheaven. All of my planets line up along a straight line on Leo, even though I'm a Virgo. They are in Leo, but they're actually they're Virgo on Leo, which is very confusing. I have seven planets that rest in Virgo, but
Wow.
they line up in a straight line on Leo. So I am a stellium in Virgo, they say, and I have a midheaven that's Leo. And my Mars, which is a feminine sign, oddly, which would be Hathor, is ruled by Taurus. I mean, my Taurus is ruled by Mars, which is a feminine sign, actually ruled by Venus usually, or by Hathor. So it's interesting. I work with the earth the way a pharaoh would, rather than working with it like a queen, an empress.
Wow. I'm I'm not as learned in the zodiac and its signs as I am with other things, but I'm beginning to learn now. And I have Leo as my rising sign. My birth sign is, or my sun sign is Gemini.
Right.
No one
And you and I share Mercury.
Yes, Mercury's a very big presence, and Mercury's Hercules labor for Gemini is the art
Mm.
of prosperities. This is my life work.
Well, 3 or 4 times a year, we have a little bugaboo, I'll call it, called Mercury retrograde. I call that psychic flu. I have my business, my phone wizard, and I try very carefully to take appointments when I know the energy will be able to be worked with. As I first encountered Mercury retrograde, which is in my traditions is like thoth on drugs, or to say who take it a little off. Um, I try very hard not to get into too heavy things when it comes to reading divination. I try very carefully to make sure that I say things so they're understood completely. And because Mercury retrograde is the planet Mercury standing in front of the sun, and it messes up all communications. Electrical impulses and light waves from the sun can be deferred. It's literally the scientific reason why that does that. You're messing up because Mercury is molten lead. The planet is molten lead. So it really, nothing penetrates it.
There are planets that never were, or that no one's been able to find, that pop up in the occult literature on our solar system and stars and planets. Is there any such thing in Egyptian mythology, some archaeological evidence that they,
Well, what they're looking at is stars.
right?
There is more than planets, there's stars. There is I'm going to say it's in the Red Pyramid. The whole ceiling is stars. And it's the goddess Nuit bending over the whole thing. And it shows night as well as day, but there are stars in certain astrological positions, and you do have things that look like Scorpio, or you have things that look like Hercules or the Gemini and such. But there are stars, constellations in that we're not sure if the artist was off that day or they are telegraphing to us that we don't know where all the stars are and that they knew more than we did about astronomy, and then therefore also had a different astrology.
And you, like I, are willing to entertain the idea that these ancient gods were celestials from other spheres that visited our own.
I was talking about that earlier this afternoon, and I surprised my former high priestess when she asked me questions. Um, I do believe, as another Greek named Georgios Tsoukalos, um, that definitely are divine beings to me are either from another dimension or from out of this solar system that they came to help. And I do believe that their energies are still able to work with us. I won't get into the complex part of the deity, of those deity systems, but I do believe, as in the Egyptians had gold skin and they had all these interesting helmets. Well, how about the crowns and such? How do we know those weren't space helmets? How do we know they weren't some kind of antennae? The mask of Anubis might have been what the space mask looked like, or Bast. And I think that, in my mind, that the ancient Egyptians, we're talking pre-dynastic, looked at those beings and said, "Oh, that looks like a cat. That's a snake. That's an ibis," because that's what they had to look, to equate it to. That's what they had around them that looked like that. What it was. That near somewhere off in the Pacific, there is a tribe that worships planes, and that happened in the 1940s during World War II. I'm sorry.
Cargo cults.
Okay, I couldn't hear you, but yes, and that's what I mean.
That's
And they make reference to that in Mad Max also, the Thunderdome. They show them in the captain and his plane, which is divine. It's the same thing. People that don't understand or don't know something sometimes make it into a divinity.
And back in the day, when this channel was on Block Talk Radio, we had a show that dealt with the ancient gods and our modern ancient astronaut, our ancient alien theories. And we had Zachariah Sitchin's Yeast. We had a bunch of authors from different publishing houses. So that was very active, and I didn't bring it over to the um, YouTube, but I'd like to. So I'd like to invite you to be part of that if you wish.
I would be honored. I'm putting this out there. Giorgio Tsoukalos, I want to talk to you.
There you
I
go.
have a lot of theories that I think I would like to express to him, to you, Giorgio, if you're out there and you're watching these things, because my knowledge of Egyptology is very vast because I've been doing this. I am 67 years old. I've been studying Egyptology since I was 8 years old, that I was able to read in detail and started to read and discover and learn hieroglyphics. Or before that, I read because of a certain Egyptian queen that I have a terrible obsession for, which we will not go into. We did that on a million shows. I'm not talking about her. Leave her out of this right now. But it's because of her and because of what I saw that the germ in my mind said, Michael, you're an Egyptian. Get back there. Walk like an Egyptian. Be who you are. And I did. And I do. And, well, I mean, it's honestly, it's 59 years that I've been studying Egyptology since I was a little boy, you know? So
Make
I,
me contact you. I tried to get Eric von Doniken on the show. That
I
never happened. But I,
now you would need a Ouija board,
yeah.
transmedium or something. I was almost able to meet him. As I told you, I was friends with Hans Holzer,
Uh,
and he knew Van Daniken very well. And I wanted to meet him, and he was going to be at the Hayden Planetarium. And unfortunately, that was canceled because that was 1993, and we had 3 feet of snow between the subway station. Oh, that was a terrible day, and it just kept snowing and snowing, and all I could do was go home. And Mr. Van Daniken canceled the thing because no one could get into the Museum of Natural History.
yeah, I remember the planetarium and natural history, and they sort of a lot of events there.
I was so disappointed, and I never had another chance. Hans Holzer had died not too long after that, and there went my connection.
More opportunities will arise.
Well, I can't meet Eric Van Daniken except on the next go round, I suppose. But I do want to meet George Tsoukalos. When I first watched him, I'm going to confess something. When I first watched him, I looked at the hair, and I looked at him, and I thought, what is that? And I'm not exactly normal looking either. I've always got some wild costume on, don't I? And I thought, well, listen to what the man is saying. Look at what's going on with him. And I started to realize I thought what he was doing was right, that he questions everything and that he has theories like Van Daniken, and he worked with all of those people. And I wanted to, I was fascinated. I really was. And, I put it out there that I would like to get to know him and know if I can make my theories work with his.
From this podcast to the God's ears and to George Stephanopoulos, please.
Giorgio, if you're listening, here we go. I
Have,
am friends with many Egyptologists.
mhm.
So, they also know that that's what I'm looking for. I have interpreted things one way, and sometimes older Egyptologists have looked at things in other ways because they didn't really see where something fit in. They didn't understand, and I spent, I think it was 3 months burning myself to crazy in Armana with where Akhenaten was in the city of Akhenaten. And I learned a great deal about him. I didn't know much about him when I went there, and what I learned when I got down there, I didn't like very much. I don't think he was a very nice person.
I don't know as much about him as you do, so I'll take your word for it.
Well,
Uh,
he only was interested in his solar disk.
you,
But Giorgio thinks that Akhenaten might have been slightly half and half human and alien. And that, who knows, that may be possible.
mythology full of stories of half celestials, Hercules, Mundum, Theseus. Most of the mythology is about beings like that.
I
And
mean, I have a problem with cryptozoology. I'm not sure that I believe in Bigfoot. Um, I was in Jersey, and if the Jersey Devil's out there, he's probably where I lived in Newark. Not sure. And the Nessie, I wonder if she is what they say, possibly a plesiosaur. I mean, alligators and turtles and crocodiles are dinosaurs. They've been around, they've come down in size, but they're dinosaurs. And there is the fish, the coelacanth, that survived for millions and millions of years, and they thought it was extinct, and it's not.
bringing back our Mythic Monsters show too. So,
So but all those questions are there. You know,
we have to start wrapping up.
yes, we do.
You have so much that you're doing, and I'd like for people to get a sampler, brief tour of all the things you're doing and how they can enter any one or more of these adventures that you're probably on.
Setna Kamweset is busy as hell. You can get my writing on Today's Witch magazine. You can get it either on Amazon or todayswitch.net. You can contact me at the Today's Witch by doing Michael K at todayswitch.net. I have an email address there. You can get me on Facebook as Michael K. Waterman. You can find me on Phone a Wizard because I'm the wizard of Phone a Wizard. You can also reach me on my email address if that's something you want to do and you want something more private. That's mkwaterman at icloud.com. Like Hercules, you can find both of us on Tim Schwartz books, The Persistence of Ghosts, as well as Weird Times, where I do talk about in detail more about Neith and the goddess of time and space. Or you can call me, 516-650-3691. That is the Phone a Wizard phone number, and I will take on all calls.
Awesome. Thank you so very much for coming on last minute. I appreciate you being here and sharing your extensive knowledge of all things Egyptian. We covered just about everything that I planned for today's show, so thank you again for that. And thank you for the golden pomegranate story. That takes me in a direction that I didn't anticipate, so that's good.
Well, it was something I wasn't sure you knew, and I always like to surprise you. So I thought I would bring that out.
And you're going to be on this Wednesday when
Hmm.
I'm on, and we're discussing the celestial sphere of cerulean blue.
And I will make sure that I'm wearing blue because you know me, I'm always color coordinated.
Yes, I probably won't be, but I'll be blue in my mind. You know,
Well, we can't have that. We have to cheer you up.
thank you for the evenings, and onward to even greater success. And
Oh, thank you. Took me 67 years, you know.
Kevin also right there with you.
Yeah, well, you'll be 68 3 months before I will. And so, everyone, I wish you all life, health, and prosperity, which in my language is Ankh Ujat Senem. And I will say also that I wish you all that you'll be before God and be pleased. So that is what Imhotep means, not Imhotep. It means God is pleased. So I hope that the gods, whoever you worship, are pleased with you. Blessings all.
Blessings all, and happy Mother's Day to all the mothers, stepmothers, maternal figures, grandmothers, aunties, positive female presences in our lives. Thanks again, Sedna.
Most welcome. Blessed art it, blessed be. Take care.
Take care.